You may have heard there's different roles for board directors. The one I want to touch on is the chairperson. Because depending on the organisation and the type of organisation, there may be other roles, particularly like a company secretary. Or for a not-for-profit that's like a sporting organisation, they might have a secretary and a treasurer, etc. But every organisation, every board does require a chairperson. Now, the chairperson has no additional legal burden on them right now, although that is always being questioned every few years, whether that's right or wrong. But look at them as a leader of leaders. They basically are the lead representative of the board and the organisation. So often where there's media releases, you'll actually see it's the chairperson or the CEO that represents the organisation. But they certainly are the main representative for not only the organisation but the board itself. They're the key liaison between the board and the CEO. In fact, we don't want to have where board directors are all just going to the CEO asking the same questions. So they are a bit of a conduit to make sure the questions are being guided and we're not overburdening the CEO or any staff for that matter. In fact, if a board director has to speak to a staff, they normally get the permission of the chairperson and the CEO, and then they'll go to the staff. You shouldn't be just bypassing those processes to go and speak to staff willy-nilly. That is not really allowed and not appropriate. The chairperson also chairs the meetings. Their role is to make sure the meeting is dealing with the agenda items and dealing in an appropriate way, that everyone's had a say and there's been appropriate level of conversation. In fact, even their body language, their tone, the way they conduct themselves will have a huge bearing on how the board directors interact. They have a very key role in preparing the agenda or calling for agenda items and vetting the information to make sure it's appropriate for board discussion. Because sometimes boards get too operational, and that's really the role of the executive. Whereas we have to think more strategic, and therefore the chairperson is almost like a gateway to determining what information gets discussed at a board level. And lastly, they also are the first one to review the minutes to make sure is this an accurate record of the meeting before it goes to the other board directors. The chairperson does play a critical role, but it's a coordinating role and you must take it very seriously.